door because I don't want the neighbors to see.
Our favorite guy is High Pitch Eric.
Favorite whackpacker?
Yeah, favorite. High Pitch Eric versus Speech Impediment Man. And these guys call Speech Impediment Man Speech. They've abbreviated
Hey,
by...
Speech.
What's your problem?
My innovation was to name the guy Speech Impediment Man and have him on the air. Their innovation is to call him Speech.
This fight, man, it's insane.
Medicated Pete has his own show on the Gonzo.
Oh, that's incredible.
They built some sort of business.
Real quick before I go, can I plug my show on the Gonzo Podcast Network?
Why should I plug that?
Calculate, cut out, keep up, battle.
By Eric's hunger pangs, like turning him into a violent beast.
Would you be so kind as let me promote my new show?
Ed, we're in the middle of a breaking news story.
All on the Gonzo Network?
It's a big network. Yeah. These guys have built a whole network off of, what, the Whack Pack?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, good for them.
This is Debbie Rochon, and you're listening to the Balls from Ellwood show. You fucking rock.
And we're back, cats. This week on the Balls from Ellwood show, I am actually beside myself. I have one of my favorite people in the world. Growing up, I had the biggest crush on this lady. I thought whenever I'd grow up, I was going to marry her, and we were going to live in a castle and eat cheese sticks together. She was my favorite and still is. Legendary Scream Queen Debbie Rochon. How you doing there, Debbie?
I am doing amazing, and everything sounded good until you got to the cheese sticks. Not a fan, but all the rest was really good. That was really good.
See, I should have approached you when I was younger. I could have just dumped the cheese sticks and something could, we could have got something going on.
Well, that's awesome. Happy to be here, man.
But anyway, I want to ask you. My very first question is, you're known as a Scream Queen. Some people take offense to that. Some people, embrace the title. Does that moniker bother you in any way?
It doesn't bother me. I just don't use it for myself. In other words, if you go to my site or one social media things, you won't see that in my bio that I've written, but you will see it in every other bio that anybody else has written about me. So it's throughout the years, it's gone up and down from me, like liking it to hating it to now. I'm not bothered. I don't care either way. I wouldn't describe myself that way, but I totally get that people like handles. It's sort of like immediately lets others know what type of performer or artist or whatever that they're seeing or hearing or watching or whatever. So I totally get it. So it's, my rage has passed, and I don't mind anymore. I really don't mind.
That's good. I don't want to offend you with that title, but it's funny. I've met people that really like it.
Rage, Michael.
Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully I'm not going to rage you anymore with these dumb questions. So moving right along, can you tell us a little bit about your formative years? I know all about you, but my audience does not. I know you grew up in British Columbia, Canada. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so in a nutshell, seeing it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. Yeah, I was foster care system. I lived in like halfway houses, and I was homeless for a long time in my teens until I fell upon Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, and I was an extra for 3 months on the movie. I made $300 cash a week, which was, to me at that time, might as well have been $1 million. And that changed my life. I mean, I went through a lot of horrible stuff living on the street and came out of it. And not only came out of it, but was inspired to do something with myself that, being on the set, it was just very inspirational, and it was something that was creative, which is so important for young people. Like, we don't even know how important that particular thing is, creativity. And so when you're given that at a very early age, especially when you're in that situation, it just kind of blows your mind open, and it has an effect on you. So that became my goal and my love and my passion, and there you go. I mean, thank God for that, because otherwise I'd be dead today. I mean,
I was going to say, is that what gave you like the strength to carry on? I mean, in such dire circumstance, I mean, I don't know how you possibly could have made it through all those, types of abuse and terrible things. I mean, is that what gave you the strength to endure?
I think in a lot of ways it did. I think it gave me the strength to get out of there and move, which is what I did. I moved to New York City, but I think also I had like a will. I always had a will like that was just ridiculous. It didn't even make any sense. If somebody told me a square peg could not fit in a round hole, I would like hammer it mentally, hammer it until it fit. I used to sit and think of ways to get things done or out of situations even, whatever the case may be, whatever the problem was. And I just used to just figure a damn way. It didn't matter how hard it was, anything. It was just like this kind of willpower was just like phenomenal at such a young age. And I attribute it to that as well. But, having a dream on top of that, yeah, that's a combination that can propel you out of any circumstance. It's amazing.
Was that the point where you found out that acting was going to be more to you than just like a hobby, and it was going to be a career? Was that like your definitive shining moment?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a hobby at that time. It was sort of like just something that I did when I was so young, and then from that moment on, it wasn't even like, oh, let me try this. There was no trying anything to me then. It was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Like, there's no backup plan. There's no, oh, well, if it doesn't, no, there's none of that. It's just, this is what I'm doing, period, end of sentence. And then went on to figure out how to make that happen, which is what I did. And, it's interesting to me because so many people be like, oh, well, you didn't really do this or that, or go to Hollywood and all this stuff. No, I mean, I could have easily moved to LA. I could have done an awful lot of things, but being from the street, I kind of really dug the independent sort of underground New York film scene, and that sort of spoke to me in a different way, and that's what I wanted to do. And I'm not saying, oh, it would be easy to go to Hollywood and make it, as blah, 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 but that just never even entered my psyche, and I can't relate to it. Sure, the money would be phenomenal. I would love to have comfort money, but besides that, I never had the passion to do that, because not just from the first film that I was an extra on in Vancouver, but to this day, I find the stuff being made on a lot of the East Coast, specifically New York area, it has something to say. It's edgy. It takes chances. There's not 15 levels of people to sign off on the script before it could get made. It's like true independent stuff, and that's what I love. That's what I love the most. So that's why I've always done it. So that's the answer to that question.
And I feel at the end of the day that, like, that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of film that I think sticks with people and something that you're going to remember, like, in the long form. Like, when you don't do things like that and it's kind of like all shiny, produced, overproduced, and polished, I mean, that's kind of comes and goes. But I think the type of film that we're fans of and that you enjoy doing is something that is really going to, you know, have some longevity. I mean, what do you think of that?
Oh, I totally agree, because what we like to see is rewatchable. How often do you see like a really big budget movie and you have to go out there and find it and own it? There's the odd one that's true, but not very often. You see it once, you've seen it, and shortly thereafter you forget it. But these movies, they're so different, they're so original and offbeat that they may not all become cult classics, but they at least become something that you want to rewatch and something that you want to own. And I find that so much more valuable. You know, and as a viewer too, that's what I like.
Yeah, that's how I always felt. Like, whenever I buy a film to own, it's like, it's almost like a piece of me at that point. Like, it's something I cherish. Like, I am sure you don't get that same feeling going out and getting a copy of, like, Thelma and Louise or something, you know? I mean, you don't cherish it with the same, reverence that I have as my copy of Terra Firmers.
Yeah, but it's so true. I mean, and they're everywhere. They're in abundance, and they have their fans, and good for them. But they're not us. You know, those fans are not us.
That's right.
And we like something different, subversive.
I love that. Debbie, is it true you're on the set of the last Lloyd Kaufman Troma movie, and can you tell us a little bit about it?
I'm doing great, man. We're on Lloyd's last movie, Shakespeare's Shitstorm, and we're having a really good time, so I'm doing great.
I mean, it's, I know every time I hear Lloyd's last movie, just something inside of me kind of cries a little bit. So, I mean...
Oh, it's so true. I mean, you never know. He could turn around and do a Toxie 5. It's possible, but, he's saying it's his last, and seeing he funds the movies himself, it makes sense that it would be the last, because, they're a lot of money. They're like, $250,000, $300,000 movies. So, in this day and age when it's so difficult to make your money back and there's no theatrical, it makes sense in a lot of ways. And he's doing this movie based on Shakespeare's Tempest. And Tempest was Shakespeare's last play, so
that makes sense then. I didn't even know. See, you're filling in a lot of blanks for me already. I didn't even know that. I didn't know very much about it. I ran into him at the Cincinnati Whorehound, and he was kind enough to be a guest on my show, because I've loved Lloyd since I was a kid, much like you, and I've always been a Troma fan, and I've met him probably 20 times, and it was one of my fondest memories of him is he actually came to, we had a Troma Fest in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was in my buddy's video store, and they rented out a theater, and we just played Troma movies like all weekend long, and it was, everybody was like a big family. Like, that was one of the best days of my life, actually. Everybody was just so nice and cool, and everybody was there for the same reason, and we just got along, and it just shared our, like, love of film, and it was just what a really nice weekend, and he was so approachable, and he just wanted to hang with everybody, just such one of my favorite people in the entire world.
Yeah, he enjoys that so much, whereas a lot of people don't in the business. I mean, some people do, but he's really a very unique person. And also, like, if you watch his movies, and especially this movie, the way that it's written has a lot to do with things that are very timely right now, like the social justice warriors and stuff like that. It has a lot to say. So, he's great because he wants people to see the movies. Most people, they walk away or they, hear about Troma and they just think it's about the gross out factor. But in fact, if you really watch the movie thoroughly, then you actually get what he's trying to say within the movie. So, I don't know, but he loves the people. He loves talking to people about film. He loves movies. He's the best. He's just the best there is.
He really is, man. I mean, I have to tell you, I could go on all night about Lloyd. I mean, he's just been so friendly and nice. And I mean, it was like the very end of the day. And I mean, you've did so many different cons. You know, at the end of the day, I would assume that you cats would, that's the last thing you want to do is be bothered. You probably just want to go back to your room or go home and you know, just relax and decompress. And it was like probably 11 o'clock at night. And him and the trauma team stayed, you know, a good hour and a half out of their way after the fact just to make me happy and actually you know, let me interview him. And you know, I can't talk greater enough. I really wish, I really regret it now, because had I known, I would have tried to find a way there. He actually asked me to have a little cameo in it, which, like, I was beside myself, and then I didn't know it was the last movie, or I would have really probably took that seriously. I mean, I'm kicking myself now, but
Oh, well, you know, there's always, number one, you never know, like, you know what I mean, until someone's last movie is their last movie. You never know for sure, so there's always a little bit of hope, but also, he always does videos and projects, so it's never too late, Michael. You can get involved with the trauma team still, even if this is the last movie. So
well, it'll always be. It'll always be a part of my life, no doubt. I mean, I actually got to screen Return to Nukem High Volume 2 with him up in Cincinnati, and it was amazing. Like there was maybe it was like a whole room of us, and like we all got up early, and I think it was like early screening, and man, it was just awesome. So I mean, I'm hoping he'll always, at least if he doesn't direct anymore, which I always felt like the ones he directed were the best, and then I've been defending them my whole life. And like you said, there's so much to what you said. Like, you know, there is the gross out factor, but when you watch a trauma movie, there's always that underlying intelligence, and it's always him, you know, commentating, having a commentary on the social things that are going on in the world right now. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They just see that at face value, but it's so much smarter than than the ICs. I mean, any trauma fan will tell you that, but I mean, anybody just doing like a mainstream, look at the trauma film, they don't really get that. And like, it kind of bugs me. I really wish people got to see more of that.
Yeah, exactly. And just to underline the point, it's, people write it off who haven't seen it. It's like being judged before you're really given a chance. You know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
From the first Toxic Avenger movie, like when all the nuclear waste was being dumped in Jersey, he got the idea, he tell you himself right from the newspaper. So
yeah, wasn't it from a McDonald's? Wasn't it from like them styrofoam McDonald's things or something, like with the waste, the dump and all that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's whatever's going on. That's what he wants to say, and quite often, like by the time the movie comes out, it's still a very relevant point he's making. But this one is even more relevant because 2 days before we started shooting, that's when James Gunn was let go by Disney.
I can't even begin to tell you how I've been blasting Disney since the day it happened. I am a humongous James Gunn fan. I think what they did to him is wrong. I think Disney is a devil worshipping conglomerate, and I think they're the biggest exploitation of children in this world. And I think they give children bad ideas more than any sort of tweet that James Gunn wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing is like this. It's not ironic in the case of James Gunn. It's more insane because it affects his personal life so deeply. But it's ironic as far as this movie theme goes, because this is exactly what this movie is about, is what just happened. And it happened like 2 days before day one of shooting. And here we are shooting about exactly what just happened to everybody in various ways, but publicly to James Gunn. So it's just so relevant, and it just speaks to exactly where we're at, which is too much on both sides, insanity, and what comes from that. So it's very relevant. I think people are gonna really dig it. Like, he's got so much to say, and it's I don't know. They're all special. This one again, very incredibly special.
So is this going to be
excited.
the be all end all trauma film of all time?
Well, I mean, it could be. It's hard to say because you'll always have people who love this movie or that movie for different reasons. But in a lot of ways, I really, really think so. I mean, just looking at the bits and pieces that I've seen so far as they do the edit during the shooting, which is unusual, but they're doing sort of a rough cut as they go. Big movies do that, but usually Lloyd doesn't do that. And it looks amazing. It's a very different look for a trauma movie, and I think a lot of people are going to really feel like it is, because it's been designed to be, even if he makes another movie, it's been designed to be his last movie, especially because of this amazing monologue he gives at the end of the movie. He plays two characters in the film, a man and the man's sister. So he plays a man and a woman in the movie.
That's just great.
Yeah, brother and sister. So, I mean, it's really, it's really good and funny. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, the fans of trauma and beyond, I hope, really, really have a lot to be excited about with this. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm glad you was able to give me a little bit of insight, because I've been chomping at the bit for any sort of information. I see the little snippets on Twitter from that they do out, but I mean, I can't wait. I mean, you don't have any sort of time frame as to know when that's going to be. I mean, that's just going to be in the theater exclusively?
No, it's well, it is going to go theatrically, but the way that one can only go nowadays, which is maybe a week in New York and LA, and then sort of the art houses sporadically throughout the rest of the country. You could maybe book a day here or there in be it Chicago or, you know, Texas or something like that. But yeah, he'll definitely do that, because that's his favorite thing to do, is to travel around with his movie and talk about it. So there's no doubt that he's going to do that again. I think unlike a lot of the other movies that have taken 2-3 years to finish till he's at the point where he's happy with it, I do think this one will be streamlined, and not because he's not taking the time to put it together, but because they are doing the edit, the rough edit, as it's being shot, just the way that it's being handled now. Like, they're saying end of year. I personally can't believe that, but I could believe 1 year as opposed to, say, 3. I kind of see him sometime next year, sometime even the end of next year, traveling around with it. So I think this will be a quicker turnaround than the rest of the movies have been, for sure.
Well, that's amazing. Every time he comes, the last time he came with Nukem High, I was calling around Pittsburgh and looking for theaters for him to come and screen. And I mean, I every time he comes, I support him. So I'm sure I'll be rallying the troops to get to see this film in the Berg, have a proper premiere too. Hey, we were actually talking about James Gunn earlier. I have a question that kind of pertains to that for you. In this day and age, where almost every single day there's like a new sexual allegation coming out in the news, has there ever been anybody in the industry that's tried to pressure you into any sort of wrongdoings to further your career?
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you that story, but first I just want to say nobody gives two shits about the Me Too women that are in the independent or underground world. So I have an issue with these movements, not because of the women who have been abused, but because of why is it just so focused that unless you are a Hollywood famous person, it doesn't matter. No one cares. No one cares. I mean, you could say it, sure, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I get that, it's more fun to bring down Bill Cosby than it is someone else that you never heard of, but the same shenanigans go on everywhere. I mean, when I came to New York and I was I'd been working in theater for quite a while, but I started writing for this magazine. It was called Femme Fatale, and the editor, not the publisher, who was in a different city, but the editor really was giving me a hard time. I was like, started writing for the magazine and stuff. And it's really pressuring me to come down and live with him. And I just like completely shut that shit down. So then what he did was not only kick me off the magazine, which of course, you could see that coming a mile away, but he was also telling filmmakers, and at that time, we're talking like very early 90s. We're not talking the internet, right? So everybody would learn about movies through magazines at that time.
Yeah,
Word of
myself
mouth
included.
magazines. Yeah, exactly. So then he would tell filmmakers, if you don't hire her and you hire whoever he was, suggesting, or, someone else, hey, I'll give you 6 pages coverage in the magazine. Or, hey, maybe I'll give you a cover. Like, he would be bartering to cause me work. And so this went on for 7 years before he was kicked out. But that was very real. That was very, being blackballed from the indie industry, and that's a time where everything was being shot on film still. So I mean, they wanted the publicity in magazines, and it was a smaller group of filmmakers than there is now because of digital. So that was it difficult in the career? Of course it was. It didn't stop me. I mean, this fucker wasn't going to stop me, but it was a very, very real event that happens to people all the time. I mean, it's completely messed up. And when the publisher, he sadly suffered from very severe depression, and he ultimately committed suicide. But before he did, obviously nobody knew he was going to do that. He had contacted me, and he said, hey, Debbie, can you write down everything that the editor has done to you over the years? And I thought it was really weird. But I did. And he got it, and he was like, oh, man, that's like a mini-series. And I laughed. I said, yeah, it's totally a mini-series. And but as soon as he got it, he let me know he got it. And within like 2 days, he committed suicide. Now, why did he want that? Because he was putting together this folder for his wife so that this editor couldn't try to usurp the magazine, so that he had this folder of, like, solid information and testimony of all the crap that this guy did, so he couldn't go on with the magazine. He did it to many people in different ways. And so, you had somebody that, I guess, in some fashion tried to help, but, it took like a suicide to get this guy out of there. So, I mean, and there's millions of these stories. So, I mean, the stuff's really real, but some of like the warrior stuff, social justice warrior stuff out there, it's too extreme. It's too extreme. In certain cases, there's a lot of people that, they deserve to be heard, but it's very, very, once again, it's very political. These people can be heard because they're rich and famous enough, and these people can't be because it doesn't matter. They don't matter. So in that regard, I have an issue with it.
Yeah, it makes me laugh sometimes. I feel like people get behind things and they're not fully educated. Like, I mean, a lot of the time, like, what I mean is like, I've seen many things in the news where people are protesting, and like, I guarantee if you ask them, they'd have no idea why they're there. I mean, I've seen, it's funny, like, I'm a regular caller in a Howard Stern show, and they send this guy out named Wolfie, and he asked people, like, why are you here, for certain things, and they're like, they just repeat themselves, they repeat what they were told to say, they have no idea, like, so, I mean, I know what you mean, it's very funny. People, I think, I find them to be very self-serving nowadays, and, they claim that they care about people, but in actuality, I think in the end of the day, it's more or less, themselves and how everything makes them feel and how they're perceived, and it shouldn't be like that. But yeah, I have to say, you are an inspiration from all the stuff that you have been through, and you always claw through to the other side. And I mean, I think that's why you connect and resonate with people so much. I consider you to be a fighter and a very inspiring person, Debbie. I mean, I always looked up to you growing up, and I mean, where do you draw inspiration from? Like, do you have any routines to get into, like, your character? Where do you draw inspiration from for each character? Like, I mean, is that everything in an individual case, or is there something you focus on? And I wanted, before I forget, have you had any long-term, like, effects, like, from all the stuff you've been through? Like, have you any long-term effects that affect you in your daily life now, just from all the shit you've been through?
Oh boy, those are completely awesome questions. I could take 2 hours on each one. Okay, so for what I've been through, my daily shit, I've got a boatload of shit that I carry around and I got to work through. And it's funny because, when you're in the crisis stuff, you go into the survival mode. It wasn't until, like, I got really deep into the studying of, like, acting, where you're dealing with you have classes on breathing and relaxation and character stuff, and you really have to get in touch with yourself in order to put yourself aside and do a character. But before you can even do that, you have to fix or at least acknowledge all of your personal shit, because that may not be the personal shit of the character, right? So when I did, like, a lot of relaxation, especially in the beginning, I had no idea how much crap would come up. And at first I became completely agoraphobic. I couldn't even leave the apartment, like, at all. It was really bad. And then I sort of got better in that department, and then to this day, I'm probably very neurotic. Like, I'm very neurotic about things. I still get things done. I still, very strong-willed, but I'm also very neurotic. Like, I just about things and situations and the stuff I have to know. To someone who doesn't know me or anything that I've been through, I probably seem a little, like, neurotic, I guess, is really the only word I can think of that makes any sense. But to me, it makes perfect sense, because I have to make sure, X, Y, and Z are in order for me to feel comfortable. It's not about me needing these things because I am, so great. It's because I hate that shit. But it's because I just, like, mentally need to feel whether it's safe or okay or relaxed or whatever the case may be. So yeah, to this day, it's like a big ordeal. Like, I always like to go away. I like to do a lot of things while I'm away. I'm always obsessing about being home. While I'm home, I'm always obsessing about being away. Why? Because it's always that thing about really, grasping that home is where the heart is. Is that a silly saying? Maybe to some, but it makes a lot of sense for where I'm coming from. Like, you have to be okay wherever you are. And that is sort of like been a lifelong struggle to understand that fully. Like, just because you're in a particular apartment or space, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not home or you are home. It just, home has got to be you in your own skin wherever you are, that you're just okay with that. You're not, like, always scrambling to get to where you think home is, because why? You never had one. So that's sort of like an ongoing issue for me, and there's a few like that. So yeah, that's lifelong. You know what I mean? That's kind of lifelong. So for getting in touch with characters and being able to do them, some of them are just really funny and they're lighter. So, maybe you just have, like, certain aspects, whether it's like a physical characteristic or a accent or something like that you will bring in because it's comedy. But a lot of the other stuff, it's all about, like, digging your heels into, like, old shit, very kind of method-like. And then it gets therapeutic in the sense that, you get to use a lot of your anger and frustration and stuff, and you get to use all of that and express it because you can't day-to-day life. So it's sort of a combination. I learned a lot of different acting techniques, so I don't go just by one. I use whatever works for any particular project. So it's very some roles are painfully therapeutic because they're just, you could just like vomit out so much that's part of you. But it's just like a great acting instructor told me a long time ago that I didn't understand because I was too young then, but I totally get now, that you can't use, when you're acting, you can't use recent hurts. You have to use old ones. You can't use something that's too close to you. Say something that happened in the past year, for example. Yeah. And it's hard to describe why, but it's too fresh and you don't understand it yet.
It kind of doesn't have that scar tissue to hold on to,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly right. So that's, everything's like a new adventure, really. And that's also what keeps it fresh, though, is that you figure out how to do every role. Everyone is like new in a way.
Well, speaking of roles, like I've always read different actors and actresses, like where they get this one role of a lifetime. I'll give you a good example. You remember when Heath Ledger was playing the Joker in The Dark Knight, and he allegedly got so deep into this role that he couldn't get out. Has that experience ever happened to you, where you get like so lost into a role where you find yourself trying to, find yourself again?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always said that I prefer spending a longer time on movies than just 1 or 2 day pop-ins. Now, I like those too. They're fun. But the longer, shoots, the 4-6 week shoots, that's independent world, not Hollywood, of course. It's better because you could really get involved. And of course they're the darker roles, right? So twice that happened to me. One was American Nightmare. We shot that in 2000.
I remember. That was a great film. I loved it.
Yeah, so that totally had that effect. And the other one was Color from the Dark, which
I remember that as well. That was
thank you. Oh, I'm glad you saw it.
I saw it because you were in it, self-admittedly. I pretty much see Debbie Rochon, and I'm like, well, I got to see that.
Oh, yeah. And both, right, were dark roles, and they were so engaging, and it was like so every day, like the prep would be so dark, that, like both times by the time I got to the airport after the shoot and on the way home, and of course once you get home, once you get home, it only takes a week or so to be slapped back into the reality of your bills and shit, right? So
that's all it takes to get quick. Back is the little taste of the real world. A few bills get you grounded.
That's why you get them all by email now, because you don't have to turn on your computer if you don't want to. But yeah, just like going to the airport and just feeling surreal, like you don't even really know. You know where you are, obviously, but you don't even like understand where you are in a certain way. Those were the two that really, I couldn't shake. I don't know if I went through what Heath Ledger went through, because apparently he went through a lot more than that. But those were two that I took all the way home, and it really shook them off. Had to shake them off.
Well, that's interesting. I'm thank you for being so candid in your answers too. I mean, I'm learning a lot just by these questions that I've always wanted to ask you, and which leads me to what do you think being an actress or an actor has like negative repercussions on your love life and relationships with friends and family? I mean, does that ever come in the way or become a stumbling block with your relationships with people in general?
Well, it can. I mean, people. That's an interesting question, because you've got a lot of different groups of people in that question. So I will say this. Absolutely, it does, and it has, and it can. Number one, if the person, whether it be friend or you're in a relationship, if they don't get what you do and they don't fully endorse it and support you, they're so long for you, but they can actually cause a lot of anxiety. I can tell you right now that when Romeo and Juliet came out, not when it was shot, but when it came out and it was on, I think it was on like pay-per-view or something. I'm pretty sure there was something. So there was commercials on TV for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, so I was married at the time, and that actually ended my marriage because.
Are you serious?
Yes, because of the movie. By the way, I was so proud of and happy to be in Tuesday,
oh my
of
God,
course.
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, but because of the lesbian scene, he like turned around and belted me in the arm. So not while the movie was playing, when the fucking commercial was on, because it knew what the movie was, and so he belted me in the arm, and I was like, okay, this is in my mind. I'm like, okay, this is over. Then it was over, and very quickly after that, and ended, and I left and everything. But yeah, so that's a perfect example of someone having some kind of judgment. And you know what? The other day I'm watching movies, and you know, you get all of this black. Okay, when you know, more so in your earlier movies, but you know, all this nudity, and then you know, you go to the movie, some Hollywood movie in a cineplex of some sort, and everybody's naked. Or you're watching a series that I love. I love True Blood.
Oh, I used to love that show, yeah. That's a good show.
Characters that spent an entire season naked, I've got no issue with that. But these people, I hope anyway, have had no repercussions from it. But, you know, you get an indie person, and it might as well be pornography.
That's the double standard at play.
Yet again. So yeah, it does affect things, but it's also a very good litmus test, isn't it? It's like, okay, if you can't handle me and what I've done, then you absolutely are wrong for me, be it friend, relationship, or anything.
So it's a good way to weed out people. I mean, gets to get to see who your real friends and who really cares about you.
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, it should be a prerequisite. Okay, here's a list of movies. Go watch them. Then you tell me if you want to. And not only that, but it will help with the sales of the movie. Think of that. So there's an upside to it.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm still blown away from that story. I can't believe because of the commercial like that. That just seems like a very insecure individual. That, like, I mean, surely he had to know when he had met you. You knew what you do, and I mean, it's acting too. It's not like you're gonna go fly to Tahiti with Juliet.
Jane Jensen, yeah. No, that was not the case, and what an asshole.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right there. You know what? You're better off, Debbie. Fuck that guy.
Thank God, because it ended quickly thereafter. So I think it's like a blessing. It's a blessing.
Well, perception is reality. That's definitely what I like to say. That's my motto, and I definitely believe that. So I mean, let's move on to a little lighter stuff here. I don't want to bum you out, but I mean, I'm
not bummed out. I swear to God.
Well, if anything, that should be a good thing.
I look at everything honestly, though, Michael. I look at everything as something positive, even if it was really hard. So it doesn't bum me out.
Well, that's excellent. Who has given you the most inspiration and support in your career over the years? You know, I know it wasn't that guy, but I mean, there's somebody surely that has.
No, it wasn't that guy. Nope, it wasn't that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Oh, yeah, fuck that guy. Let me tell you something. That's throughout the years. That is a tough one because people kind of come and go whether they intend to or not. Like, I don't know. Like a lot of people have inspired me for sure, and certainly I gotta say, like being on the Troma's recent movie now, like Lloyd's last movie, Shakespeare's Shitstorm, based on The Tempest. Lloyd is inspiring me not because it's his last movie, but because coming back, being on the set for a month, And I'm not even there for the whole time. It's continuing to shoot after I leave for a little bit, like an extra week or so, maybe 2 weeks. But it's inspiring because it has drawn in this incredible group of people that it's always been a good, solid, hard-working group of people on the Troma movies. But on this set, it just seems to be everybody wants to be there so much for so many reasons.
Like a labor of love.
Yeah.
Well,
I find that.
That's like that. That's like just intoxicating, you know. I think that's how art and film, I think, should be. I think, like whenever you get into like a bigger, you know, like you said, like a bigger film, like I think all that stuff's lost and it loses its soul and its, you know, determination, its drive, its passion. So I think that's the difference. The biggest difference between independent film and, you know, regular film. I mean, that's why I think the things that we like and you do are far superior. But I mean, what is there anybody that you've never got to work with that you admire, that you, I mean, who do you like nowadays? I know you're an incredible actress, but who, you know, who actually do you look at and go, damn, they're really good?
Oh, gee, well, there's so many. And, you know, first of all, if you're talking about like the mainstream movies, it's slightly easier to look at male actors because they have better roles, and that's just truth. You know, that's not me in the soapbox. So, you know, I could look at the current non-romantic comedy movies of Matthew McConaughey and say, holy cow, the roles he's choosing now are phenomenal. There's a few actors like that, that are more in the mainstream. As far as like the indie stuff, a little bit harder because there's a lot of people that kind of come and go. You know, they don't always stay in the business that long. So I would say that there's actresses. I really, really admire Barbara Crampton.
Oh yeah, I just watched the movie with her today, Dead Night. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I think she's really, really solid. She's good-natured as a human, and she does like really amazing roles still in the indie world, in the upper echelon of the indie world. So I think she really is a terrific talent. I mean, even someone who you don't necessarily immediately put on your list of actress because, you know, of training and stuff. It's not a disrespect. But Sherry Moon Zombie, what I like about her is that she goes all in, balls in, just all the way into any character. Of course, the characters are written for her to her strengths. At the same time, I really, really like that. I'll tell you a really quick story. When I do any role, especially recently, my whole thing is I'll say, okay, I'm just going to Spinell it. And that harkens back to Joe Spinell. Like, you know, remember him from Maniac?
Oh, yeah, that was the William Lustig movie, Maniac.
All these great movies that he did, especially the indie stuff,
amazing.
all of them. And why I say Spinell it is because there's scenes of him in independent movies, or I've seen him, like, running in the night, you know, greasy with sweat, his stomach hanging out, didn't care. He was going for it as the character. So that's kind of like this image that I have, that it's like a compliment to him, but it's also like you can't give a fuck what you look like going for it, like within the movie or something. So I came upon this thing, I'm just going to fucking Spinell it. You know what I mean? Just like let everything hang out.
Pull out all stops and just don't give a fuck. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like, who cares, like, what you, quote, look like? Because everybody's, like, so into that. And, yeah, at a certain time, maybe I was, too. You know, nobody's perfect. But in this day and age of selfies and everything, I'm so not into that. Like, I totally want to Spinell it. Like, that's my enjoyment and my fantasy is just Spinelling it, you know?
Well, by that rationale, I've been Spinelling it my whole life. I've always been an ugly fat dude. So, I mean, I've been Spinelling it since the day I was born, Debbie. So, see, I'm ahead of the curve here.
Yes, you are. I love it, man. I do. And I love turned him into a verb. It's like a really a love.
I'm gonna be you're gonna start a trend. I'm gonna adopt that saying. I love that.
Good.
Hey, I got another one for you here. I don't want to eat up your whole night here. I know you gotta go, but I got so many good questions for you. This is a dream come true to me. I've achieved nerd heaven tonight. Thank you, by the way. If you could take back one thing on your resume, what would it be and why?
Okay, yeah. But, I used to be able to answer that so easily, but with the time that's gone, there was a time that I really, really didn't like, was just embarrassed by Santa Claus.
Oh, really?
But check this out. I have come to see the humor in this movie, and now not only have I gone from thinking it was going to be this great, when we were making it, we were dead serious. There was no comedy at all, believe it or not. And we were dead serious when we were making that movie, and I thought, it's just going to be really scary, right? Like, that's what I thought. So you can imagine when I saw it, right?
You're like, what the fuck happened?
I was kind of mortified, and I love John Russo to this day. Like, he's a very good friend of mine, so it's no disrespect to him, but I was deeply depressed and embarrassed. However, about, I want to say, 15 years ago, maybe 10, but yeah, about 10 maybe, I looked at it and I was like, this is fucking hilarious. This is great.
I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And so now, every Christmas, I watch it. Not to, see myself. I watch it because every scene is funnier than the last one I just saw. It makes no sense. And it is hilarious. It's like The Room, but it's its own thing. But I love it for all the wrong reasons.
Oh man, I'm a big Tommy Wiseau fan, man. I love The Room. I love that kind of cinema. Like I went to the theater. They had a screening of The Room, and like they give you walk in, they give you plastic spoons to throw. They give you like a little football. They hook you up. It's so fun. I love that kind of theater experience. It reminds me of the old William Castle days where everything was all rigged up and stuff. I love shit like. I wish I'd bring more shit like that back.
Yes. I agree, and to his surprise, everything turns to gold, even if he does it badly. So it's like this amazing, bizarre story, the Tommy Wiseau story, right, with the Disaster Artist, and
that was a great film.
Who knew? Like it doesn't even make any sense, but it's like he's got this magic touch. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I got another one for you, Debbie, if you don't mind. If you had a time machine and you can go back and talk to little Debbie and tell her some profound advice she would need in life when she gets older, like what kind of advice would you give little Debbie now that you're big Debbie?
I would give the advice of do not give a shit what anybody says or thinks, and like totally, as cheesy as this is, I would say trust your instincts. Don't change. Don't get sidetracked because, you thought doing something or not doing something would make somebody else happy, because at the end of the day, only when you're doing what makes you happy can you actually make others happy. Is this sappy? Oh, yes. Is it true? Oh, hell yes. It's so true. I would say don't listen to what anybody has to say as far as the negativity, the trying to bring you down. And you know what? I would pray to God that the little Debbie would not be going through where we're at today with social media, because I don't even know how you would get around not becoming depressed looking at social media all day and all night. But it would be something along those lines, and just also something along the lines of like, you are home. That would be part of it too. You are home right now. Like you don't have to run. Like be it emotionally, mentally, None of that stuff. So maybe to save some time on my part by conveying that information and also conveying what these... I mean, I'll give you an example. There was this guy way back. He was so obsessed with hating me. This is like the early 90s. Like, I hadn't even done much at that point, but he was so obsessed with hating me.
Jeez.
He made an entire... it was like a made at Kinko's, right? But it was like a newsletter that went to maybe 3 or 5 people that signed up for it. But the whole thing was dedicated to, you know, hating me, like dissing me, putting me down, all this kind of shit. And I was like so like shocked by this. Years later, this person wants to be friends on Facebook, and I've sent a message, why would you want to be friends? Like, why? I don't even know why I sent that message. And he was just like, oh, because, you know, I've learned, and I know better now, and all this kind of shit. But that's just one example of, like, do not somehow get yourself to the point of not giving a shit what anybody has to say or think of you, because they don't know you what's right for you and what you've been through. So I would try to take that away, and I would do that for anybody. I would say the same thing.
I can relate to that too, because growing up, I always wanted to, like, you know, sculpt my life for people's acceptance and, like, want people to like me. And now, like, you know, as you get older, you're just like, who the fuck cares? You know, like, you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. You know, you got to do what's good for you, and you know, fuck what everyone else says. I mean,
Oh, completely. And the thing is too, like, it's not going to change. And plus, you don't know the motivation for it, do you? Is it because they're mad about something you have that they don't, no matter what it may be? Probably.
That's probably the case. I mean, I'm not. I mean, you're a renowned actress. You're a humongous talent. I'm a dude that calls into a radio show, and people sent me like 7, 8 paragraphs of why I'm the worst caller in the whole wide world. I'm a cunt. I'm this. I'm that. I'm like, I get it all the time. So like, I tend to not even look at that stuff because, but a lot of the time I kind of think it's good though, because like I'm thinking, well, if these people are doing this to me and it doesn't really do much to me, you know, that's keeping them from fucking with people that it in fact probably truly would bother or hurt, or you know, it's taking some heat off of them. So I mean, I'll gladly be the martyr to save save the feelings of people that can't take it. So I mean, I think that's sometimes it's a blessing. I think, you know.
Yeah, and the people who are writing that in, you know, what the hell is their motivation? I mean, they're so I don't know, they're moved by jealousy that they can't be a caller. That's all it is.
That's what's funny. Like, I haven't did one thing that, like, nobody else could not have did. Like, I mean, I find my, you know, I mean, the only thing I have above everyone else, I think, is determination. I don't give up. Like, people always go, oh, how have you get on the show so much? Like, I've been calling in regularly for 10 years. I've had almost 200 calls. And people are like, oh, you have a line you call or a back number? And I'm like, no, I just don't ever give up. Like, I mean, in fact, when I can't get through and I can't get on the show, it drives me even more. Like, it's like an OCD thing. Like, it just drives me till I do. And then I realize, wow, I'm really a pathetic asshole.
Yeah, no, and that's your willpower, and that's what's going to keep you going, Michael. That's what gets you to do this podcast. That's what gets you everything you've got and all the things you're going to get is that exact willpower.
I have to say it has been a blessing, man, because I honestly don't think if I ever got the show from that, I wouldn't be talking to Debbie Rochon right now. So I mean, that's not for me. I mean,
there you go, and I wouldn't be talking to Michael. So your willpower's already made good stuff and magic. That's awesome. Yeah, never stop with that willpower, man. That is the gold right there, because you know what? You can't teach that shit.
I can never. Like, it reminds me, I always say this in my everyday life. When I was younger, my grandpa used to always tell me, and at the time, you know how, like, you have people in your life and you're like, you know, they say shit and you're like, okay, whatever. But I tell you what, nothing has rung true for me more than when I was younger. My grandpa used to tell me, the squeakiest wheel gets the oil, big dog. He used to call me big dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, now that I got older, I'm like, holy shit, man, he is right. Like, I can't imagine how many times that I've been persistent and I've never laid off and it's paid off. And I mean, now I get it. So I'm like, you know, hey, that was probably one of the best lessons I've ever learned in life. So.
And And you know what? That is so true, because just having that mindset of like, I don't give a shit if somebody, smacks me over the head with a piece of concrete. I will nurse my head better and get back on it. Like, just having this like willpower that makes no sense to anybody. That is like I say, you can't teach that. That's the thing. You can't teach that. You could tell somebody, you could say, you have to find something that you want that bad, but that's their journey to find that, and some people don't have that, and that's hard, because you can't teach it. You can't teach it. So it's good that you know that, and that's why you're doing so well, Michael.
Well, thank you, and that's why, I appreciate every single person that helped me, man. Like, that's why whenever you said yes, like, this means the world to me. Like, I've been, when you work hard and, like, you don't really see any fruition from it, like, it's just, it's kind of, you get a little down, but I honestly feel like things are coming together. I feel like people are taking me seriously, and like just having guests like you is going to help tremendously. And like, I really feel like things are really, gonna be positive and take off here. And like, I owe it to you. I owe it to anybody that's ever, all my listeners. That I just appreciate everybody so much. And I can't thank you enough. But like, I have, I'm sure you want to give that phone back, but I honestly, just let me ask you 3 more questions, and I'm going to wrap you up here. But I can honestly talk to you all night.
And then I'm on phone disability.
You're on what?
I'm on phone disability, so we'll get to those right now.
Yeah, let me get these down. I think we went probably 20 minutes over what you're looking to, so I'm going to rush through these last couple here. I could have talked to you all night, man. This was incredible. Thank you so much again. But what do you consider to be your best performance?
Boy, okay, again, I've done stuff that I think is really fun, and I've given it my all. I would have to like slice it up into different genres. I think as far as straight horror, I think it still lies in American Nightmare.
That's actually what I was going to choose.
Yeah, I think so. I think in sort of very pitch black comedy drama, I think Nowhere Man is intense, and a role that really I put 1,010% in. Terra Firma, I'm really proud of. It's very, off the wall and crazy, but
I love it.
I loved making that, and I think it turned out good, and I was, I guess, good enough in the role that people thought I was a complete bimbo after for many, many years, because, apparently I did the role so well, which was the part of an actress who was a bimbo. But, yeah, I would have to say that those are up there. I'm probably missing 1 or 2, but, those are up there because everything comes together. You have to have good writing. You have to have a role that you can sink your teeth in. You got to have a good director. So all these things have to kind of come together. So it's not, you just doing a good part in something that sort of didn't come together for one of the other reasons. So I think in these cases, it's not that the other certain movies are lesser. It's just that in these cases, everything kind of came together the most.
It doesn't get better than that answer, I have to say. I mean, you act on so many different levels, and there's so many different layers. Like, it is difficult to pick, but my personal favorite, I think, is American Nightmare. I mean, you're incredible in that. There's so many different layers to your, that character. Like, it's scary. I mean, that's what it's all about. So, I mean,
yeah. Well, thank you very much.
What? 2 more. We're running down to the nitty gritty here. What is the best gift that anybody's ever given Debbie Rochon?
The best gift, like physical gift or any kind of gift?
Any kind of gift.
Any kind of gift. I would say when people are faithful they get nothing out of it. In other words, they're friends, and they're true friends, and they just come out in this magical time when either you need it emotionally or in some other way, and they just present themselves and something for you. And I'll give you a quick example. Like just a couple days ago, James Felix McKinney, who I worked on his movie Satan Hates You, and he runs Larry Fesseden's Glass Eye Picks for him / with him, and he just came out of nowhere and said, I was asked to direct this movie, and it's about, independent / horror actors, like playing themselves for the most part. And he said, I told him I would direct it, but only if, one of the people in it was you. And he doesn't get anything out of doing that for me. Nothing. Other than the fact that, he knows me. He knows I'll work really hard on it, but didn't have to do that. So, these kind of things are very moving. I've done a lot of different favors, even on my kind of minuscule level of filmmaking and people that I know. I never expect anything back. So when something happens, it is just so moving to me. It's nice, but it's also moving because somebody, cares enough to do that. And that's like an amazing gift to me. That was the most recent gift, if you will, that really moved me that I got. So, it's something along those lines. And biggest, that's kind of hard to say, but that would be an example of like something that blows my mind.
Well, that's a perfect example. That's exactly what I was looking for. And last but not least, what would you? I promise. What would you be doing if you weren't acting?
If I wasn't acting, I would probably be. Let me see. I would probably be. See, I never made a plan B. See, so I gotta make this up. Just pull it out of my ass right now. So I would probably be what's an ass doctor called?
A proctologist?
That's what I would be.
Oh wow, Debbie Rochon, proctologist.
That. Maybe because I pulled it out of my ass, so there it is. I would probably be an ass doctor.
Well, I can't think of a better end to this better way to end than Debbie Rochon going to be a doctor on your end. That's just perfect. I have to tell you. Well, there you have it, folks. Ass Doctor Debbie Rochon. Thanks again, there, Ass Doctor. I want to thank you for being on the Balls from Ellwood show. It was a pleasure to have the incredible Debbie Rochon on. Is there anything you'd like to plug or advertise before I let you go there, Ass Doctor?
Yeah, Ass Doctor, and I don't want you to overlook the fact that my initials are DR. Hello, Doctor.
Ooh. Right?
See, It could have been so. I could have been a contender. But besides this movie, obviously I'm working on a couple of things that I should really let everyone know is that John Keyes, director of American Nightmare, is actually putting together a 20th anniversary from the shooting of it, not the release, Blu-ray of American Nightmare with all new extras that we're going to be working on. It's going to be out within, I don't know, I would say like 8-ish months, but we're working on it now. So that's a really big deal for us because he's doing it himself. Like he's going to do a limited run Blu-ray, not through some company where he'll never see a dime. He's spending all the money himself, but it's going to be like a project of love, and it's going to be all kinds of stuff, including if people want to send in videos or artwork or anything about the movie, they can be on the disc.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so you just either find it. I think I have it right on my website, DebbieRochon.com. Like the email address you could send anything to, be it video, art, or whatever you want to send. Music, doesn't matter. Because we're just doing this blowout kind of Blu-ray edition, just to celebrate it. Because it was his first movie, and it was. First movie where people maybe took me seriously. So we have a lot. It's a really special movie for us. So that's like there's many other things going on too, but I think that's the one that's kind of sweet to end on right there.
Absolutely, and whenever we find out more information, I will be sure to keep my audience informed, and you're going to, whenever that comes out, you're going to have to run out and get that Blu-ray, Cat, so I'll keep everybody posted, and other than that, there you have it. You have the lovely Debbie Rochon. Thank you again for being my guest, and we will see you again next week, Cats. Peace and love. Peace and love.
No! This is a trauma movie! Don't give up the fight for truly independent cinema!